So we're going to do some basic lessons on handicap games, how to handle high handicap games, and how to deal with annoying plays. White, a lot of times, white will actually attach. Now, the most basic response to an attachment is hane, hane, one of these two hanes, which are perfectly fine. But if you want things to be less complicated, you can just extend here. White cannot hane here because then black can actually cut here. If black cuts here, and white does this, obviously, this is no good for white. Obviously, like black wins this little liberty fight. You know, Atari, and you win by one, and white still has a weak group. So that's not a good result for white. So white cannot actually hane because you can cut. White does this, you can easily do something like this. Like he's got two weak groups to actually worry about. He has to actually find some way to live in here, and then he's got this weak group right now. So that's obviously not a very good result for white either. So white cannot hane. He can only do this, or he can do this. If he does this, you can hane. If he cuts, if he actually cuts, you can actually do this and then extend here, and white doesn't really have that many things he can do. If he cuts, obviously this is bad. If he hanes and then double hanes, you always Atari first. And then after you Atari, you basically connect this, I believe. And that's actually that's not too bad for black. If he extends this way, you can just take the corner. Yes, he can take the stone, I think, but then black essentially has, black basically has sente here. So, this is still white plus black plus 85.2, and more importantly, black has actually gained solid territory, which white cannot destroy, and white hasn't gained too much territory. White's influence is probably not that important because black has all these other stones on the board. Or black, instead of doing that, can just actually do this as well, and that solidifies a lot of this territory. So black gets a lot of territory, white gets some influence on top. Overall, if this was an even game, it might favor white, but because you have such a huge handicap, securing like any kind of territory like this is going to make it harder for white to actually win. So you don't actually have to always hane either way. You don't actually have to always hane either way. And the thing is, like even here, you can just opt to do this as well. He can take the corner, and you can come up here and attack these four stones. So he gets the corner, but these four stones are going to have a hard time, and he can't let you have these four stones. And if he does that, like if he actually does that, you can just play something else, or even further attack these four stones. And this result might actually even be better than the other result, because now he just has a weak group in the middle. So there's a lot of ways to actually deal when white deals with it on this attachment. In this attachment, if you don't want complications, you would just extend. White can extend here, then you can just block here as well. And this does not favor white because white doesn't have a base, and black is getting a lot of territory. If white does this, black can always do something like this. And if white does this, you can just welcome white by doing this, and you get all this territory on the bottom, while white gets very little. And he still doesn't have a base. So if you don't want complications and someone attaches, a perfect move would a great response would actually just be able to extend. If he attaches here, you can just play. I mean, I would actually hane. You'd have to hane this one, but if he attaches on the outside, you can just extend. If he attaches anywhere else, you would hane. Now, after you hane, if white if white actually cuts, I know a lot of black players will want to immediately Atari. That is a very, very bad idea. You either extend this or you extend this. There is nothing that white can do if you extend this. If you do this, then you get to kill the stone, and white is still pretty weak. So that's very, very bad for white. If he Ataris this way, well then he still has to connect down here. And if you do this, then this is very bad for white as well. You don't answer this and you just go elsewhere. So this is not a good result for white as well. So don't fall for this trap. When he actually cuts the corner, just extend here or extend here, because that is the right move. Because if you Atari and he extends, you are creating a cut for yourself. And now you have to deal with this stone. If you actually connect here, now he has a ladder here. Or actually, he doesn't even have to have a ladder. He has this. If you connect here, now you have problems if he does, something like this. So realistically, it's much better if you just extend here or extend here instead of Atari. Much less complex. Let white decide which side he wants to sacrifice, and that will actually suit you a lot better. Remember, and that's true for all these like Ataris. If you actually Hane here, and he cuts here, do not Atari. Think about extending. Extending is the much better move. I've actually used this technique to test a lot of DDK and SDK players, and a lot of like DDK players and lower SDK players, and they almost always get it wrong. Like when I cut, they almost always immediately want to Atari. They do not actually want to extend, and this actually applies in even games as well. Like even in let's just say like in an even game, right? Like if I attach here, if white attaches here and black does this and white cuts, black should still extend because that puts white in a very, very bad spot. Once again, this is going to be a victory for black. So just remember that when they attach and Hane, and cut, do not Atari, but extend. Very, very simple lesson, but will save you a lot of headaches in a lot of games. So I also want to take this time to actually say that like on this channel, I am really dedicated to actually teaching people and helping them get better on certain mechanics. Let me know what videos you want to see, what questions you actually have, what questions you might actually have on simple plays, really rudimentary plays, some Josekis that you might want to see and explained. And also, like, if you want to have a game review, if you want to have your game reviewed, you can always just message me on OGS. And as long as your game is on OGS, I can actually review it. I generally like to review those like between 12K and like 3 or 4K, because that's generally what I'm best at. Above 3 or 4K, it's more like a better co-study for me. Between me and the other person, and below like 12, 13K, like there's a lot of big mistakes that it's really hard for me to review a full game, but I will do my best even if it's below 13 and 14K. So just message me on OGS, and yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, simple lesson, and I will see you guys later.